for joining me. A lot of you who watch What Drives Us know that Russell and I have talked a lot about trying to introduce you to different forms of activism in order to get environmentally friendly policies in place and the people who are most likely to enact them. And today we're going to take a different tack, and I'm going to introduce you to one of my favorite people to follow on Twitter, just because she's hilarious and the way how she gets you to be engaged, to know who's in charge, is mind-blowingly genius good fun. So I'm going to introduce you to somebody that if you've followed me on Twitter, you probably have seen me retweet some of her thirst tweets. This is Qondi. And did I blow your name? Let me know.
Just about everybody does, so it's okay.
I want it because I like to do it right.
Yeah.
I take great pride in being good at people's names. So this is Qondi on Twitter. And if you followed me, you may have seen Stick Qondi. And who's Stick Qondi and her amazing saga? Because Stick Qondi basically has the love life. Okay, for me, it's a little much. That's a lot of men to
What,
take.
5 husbands is too much? No.
Girl, one can be too much.
A little light polyandry.
Now, I'm pro the polyandry. I believe you do need a team for proper household support. I support this, but that's a lot of juggling, especially when we're talking about the names in this polycule. So
it does get messy.
it is a messy saga, but you know what? Love is at the heart of it all.
It is.
And
they
Stick
love each
Qondi
other.
has a lot of love, and she's given a lot of love. So her husbands are Jason Momoa, Idris Elba,
Chris Evans.
Chris Evans. Wait, Chris. No. Okay, we got to. Do not touch my.
You did not realize that Chris Evans is one of the brother husbands.
He and I are going to have to talk. Okay, wait. So
it's not just Stick Qondi and Chris Evans. Chris Evans is also madly in love with the other brother husband, John Ossoff.
John Ossoff.
They have a cute little side
a cute little thing. They have a thing.
Yeah, they're adorable.
Which, to me, that's good polyandry. You have to love each other.
They all have to love each other. He makes sure that Chris always puts sunscreen on, doesn't do dangerous backflips into pools. They care about each other.
And I could see those two lifting together because John.
Right? They do work out.
They do work out. I mean, John doesn't have to push quite so hard on the chest, but you see he does.
Yeah. And after a very, long leg day, Chris likes to massage John's calves. It's very sweet.
Just get the tensions out. And I love the Stick Qondi follicule and the entire Stick Qondi saga, which you can follow that's on your Instagram, if I remember correctly. Because you've got
So Stick Qondi started out on Twitter. So it's I call it my Twitter novella. So it's my little soap opera on Twitter, but it's also on TikTok and it's also on Instagram. So it's like a cross-platform saga. And we mustn't forget the other brother husband, Taika Waititi.
That's right. So, and yes, Taika, because we could not forget Taika.
He's the emotional glue that holds the polycule together.
He is so chill and so understanding.
Chill, so mature.
Definitely. I mean, I love the whole fun relationship about it. And the key word here, though, is there is some thirst happening in all these times. This is a very thirsty saga.
It's full very of love, thirsty.
Full of thirst. Everybody just but it makes people happy and it brings people in to read it. It has been very popular. So for those of you who ever thought about creating some wild harebrained story on Twitter, go for it. You never know where it's going to lead. Go for it. It was absolutely fun to read. But we're talking about activism. We're talking about politics. We're talking about. No, it's all tied together. We're talking about bringing people in via engagement. Stick Qondi and the entire polycule, especially represented John Ossoff.
Oh my gosh, that man.
Being part of that, Senator Boo.
Oh, Senator My Boo.
That's right. If he ever lives that name, if that name echoes out ever on the Senate floor, I am sending you $50.
Oh my goodness. The day that happens, the day that happens.
I am going to be so happy. But when people started reading that, they started following you. And one of the things you did is you effectively turned that engagement into getting them to pay attention to the Georgia races, particularly Warnock, which you have been a staunch advocate of reelection for Warnock, and definitely exposing the fact that Senator Warnock's photographer is doing.
Senator Bay is doing all right
Thing.
in the looks department.
He's doing pretty all right. He's dressing well. The man
His suit game was pretty tight.
The picture of Senator Warnock is in the dictionary next to dapper, because he is the epitome.
That is the correct word.
He is dapper. He has the dapper. He is church dapper. That is fine, fine and dapper, church level dapper. It's not street. There's an elegance and a maturity to it. And that's why
all the single aunties are lining up in the pews, wearing their best, Sunday best every time.
And they sing just a little louder if you smell them. Just showing up. Somebody's like, whenever they turn. Okay, calm down, Margaret. He is not hunting at this time. It's church.
It's church,
but the thirst is real for Senator My Bay. And by using, and let's be blunt, using sex and sexuality, nothing wrong with that, and attractiveness and highlighting it has gotten people to donate to Warnock.
Oh yes.
Don't donate to Abrams. You brought people in, they've been following. I think you're getting way more engagement and a lot of people talking more about these races and about what's happening in Georgia, which has been very critical because you follow me, you know how I feel about this whole mess with between Walker and Warnock. It should not be a contest. The foolishness happening there is
utter foolishness.
So I think that's been incredibly effective. Now, was this a plan? Did you think about this, or was it something where you just kind of naturally flowed into?
So when Ossoff and Warnock were first running, this was in 2020, I was very active. But my my engagement with them was definitely not thirst oriented. Yeah, but so my support of them has been longstanding, and everyone has known that about me, that I'm very passionate about Georgia and Georgia politics. But something changed. When did it change? Probably like August 2021. I started calling John Ossoff Senator My Boo.
I think he started wearing the cut fitted shirts at that time.
You know what? He started working out.
He really did. He bulked.
He got big. He
decided to take his protein consumption seriously. That's what, 130 grams, son?
But I do have the inside track at the Senate that he does frequent the gym often.
It shows. He's got
the shoulders and the chest. And
the shoulders and the broad chest. I mean, he's been doing the tapered waist thing very well. He went from good and slender but fit to like, oh, I see.
I see you, John. I see you.
We are experiencing some visual stimulation on this one.
So because Warnock won a special election, we always knew that you'd have to start campaigning almost immediately.
Yeah.
So I started doing what I used to call like happy posts. So happy Monday, happy Tuesday, and then post like thirst pics.
Yes, I remember those.
Yeah, of Warnock and Ossoff looking hot. Sometimes it'd be a theme, sometimes they wouldn't. And then after the thirst thread, I'd include a donation link.
Right.
And that's kind of where the idea of Thirst for Democracy came from.
Mhm.
So not weaponizing, but harnessing the thirst and the interest in them into something tangible. So whether it's donations for Warnock's campaign, or if it's just giving people a lens into how government works. Because what I noticed about being on Twitter is a lot of people don't actually know what Congress does, what the different branches of government do, how the basics of how a bill is passed.
Now I'm going to break in here
Yeah.
and give you that immigrant sister stare of disappointment at Americans, because I too have just been like, okay, I was not born here. I got my
Right.
citizenship. I passed some tests, but it wasn't even that hard. This was stuff I
Mm.
knew before I even bothered.
Yeah.
How you live here, you don't know how things work. That's like I'm living on the farm. I can't figure out what plant is actually edible. I'm sitting here starving. I don't know what to do. What are you doing?
But what's interesting is people are very opinionated about things they don't know much about.
Oh, speak a word.
People are loud and wrong a lot.
Loud and
So
wrong.
loud and wrong. So I figured that Thirst for Democracy was a non-threatening, fun, joyful way for people to engage with the government, interface with the government. So I also do like thirsty hearings. So if John Ossoff is doing a hearing about like military housing, right, or the penitentiary system or whatever it may be, I try to make it fun and engaging so that people look forward to watching congressional hearings. Who looks forward to watching congressional hearings? Nobody. Now people do.
So normal people don't. The thing is that, and I already saw him getting flack for it, but Obama, um, President Obama talked, I think, a day or two ago, and he said that the reputation that being progressive or liberal or Democrat is that we're buzzkills, and that we,
Mhm.
that we have that, and people are like, attacking liberals again, and I'm just like, do you understand that half the reason why the media chases these freaks
Mm,
of conservatism is because they think it's fun?
mm,
People, there's a very important, I keep forgetting who it is, but there was at least one person who talked about how fascism often always starts off from a jokey standpoint.
oh
They
yeah.
make a joke about everything,
Mm,
and people get engaged. It's just fun. It's just
mm,
fun. And then they start to slowly but surely it stops being just fun and starts being a point of view that there's a little bit of right here. And it's
mm,
like every single stereotype of progressive or liberal or feminist, everything that basically is on the side that I want to be on,
mm,
when you look at the pop culture depiction of them and how the far right depicts them, what are
mm.
they often depicted as? Joyless, angry
Yeah,
buzzkills. And
exactly.
we're not. And
Mm,
I thought, to me, I think that you are doing what is the perfect embodiment of a fresh and unexpected take on, um, yes, thirsty hearings. Why not?
why
Let's talk about
not?
it. Because
Government is sexy. Public service is sexy. Civic engagement is sexy. It's hot. It's hot when good men and good women want to do good, right?
that's right.
Who've dedicated their entire lives, right, to giving back to society. What isn't hot about that,
That's right. I
right?
fully
What
agree.
isn't fun about that? And the thing is, when they're doing their work, most of them actually exude so much joy and so much light
And
that
charisma.
and charisma that people don't really shine a light on. And then that's what I try and do, to show
And
people, look at these good people having so much fun working together, trying to make your lives better. What isn't great about that?
excellent. I mean, I could not agree more. And it really, I've seen people who I'm sure never paid attention to a hearing in their life, following your tweets and learning about the process and
Yeah.
learning what happens, so that civic engagement is not some weird arcane thing that only weirdo nerds do,
Mm.
but something that they can do. And it does, and yeah, you can be a person who something good happens in your life, you drop out, you maybe Dougie a little bit and twerk and follow thirsty tweets, and then you still know what the hell is going on in your government, and you understand what to do to be effective. And it's
Exactly.
effectiveness. Our ancestors got us to this point because they
Mm.
never gave up in the face
Yeah,
of way more overwhelming odds. And
exactly.
they also stayed on the course of effectiveness, not
Mm.
spectacle,
Mm.
effectiveness. So that's
Yeah.
one of the things that right now, one of the things you're also doing that I find interesting. EPA bag. Now, how did he come up into this? Granted, I can see how. He came
I
up
mean, he
as
was literally a male model.
he yes, he is a model of something. Yes, he is definitely. That was sculpture.
Yes. So after some time, I started trying to organize this thirst for democracy idea in my mind. And I realized that there were different tiers of men that I had. So there we discussed at length earlier, Stick Qondi's brother husbands, which are
Uh-huh.
part of that telenovela world that I've created. And Senator Maibu, John Ossoff is part of that. So that when he then, the character John Ossoff, interfaces with the government and everything, it's fun. Then I also have bays. And Senator Bay, Senator Warnock is one of them. President Obama, President Bay is another.
Eternal Day, yeah.
The Eternal Bay. And then EPA Administrator Michael Regan, who I call EPA Bay, who is honestly ridiculously good looking.
Crazy
It's
hot.
like on a level that's like unbelievable for a government official.
It's like, what are you doing here? We can't
Sir,
concentrate.
go be in a movie or something. Good grief. Get on a magazine cover.
But we're fine with that. I mean, you know what? Good looking outside, good looking trying to save the earth on the inside. I appreciate.
His hot origin story is that in college, he either wanted to be a male model, and he did professionally model, or go into environmental policy. And lucky for all of us, he went into environmental policy. So he's been doing this his whole life, right? He's a lifelong public servant.
Yes, and
Right.
it's good to know. I mean, that's the thing. I knew about him. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't track any of that until you started doing EPA Bay and bringing out more details. And it's like the ability to do all that. Brilliant.
Yeah, so the tweets will always start with, here's a hot picture of him, and then, oh, what's he doing today? You know, where is EPA Bay? Like, what policies he espousing? What initiative is he pushing? And then people learn what the EPA even does, right?
For a lot of people, they don't know. And one of the things, especially when you look at the infrastructure issues in the Black
Mm,
community, because
mm,
Flint is not the only place
no.
with bad piping and that's poisoning our communities. And
Mm,
his focus, the what you brought up the fact that he was it was another release of funding to do pipe replacement. I
mm.
mean, the
His
people need to
focus
know
is
because
basically environmental justice
it is environmental justice,
for
and
Black
also
communities.
you conveyed that not just was the money released, but the issue was local politics
Exactly.
are it's a synergy there because the EPA can send the money, but if you don't have a governor and mayor that
Mm-hmm.
will do the work,
Exactly.
we don't know where the money will go.
Exactly.
And so the thing is that for all that it looks light on the surface,
Mm,
because of the breadth of what you cover, it means that people following you are, yeah, they're getting hot EPA Bay, but they're also getting hot EPA comprehension of federal government's limits versus the local government's
exactly.
responsibilities. And what many of, as you said earlier, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of wrong information floating around on the Twitters
Mm,
about who does what and why.
mm.
And a lot of people do not comprehend. It's not just the federal government. It's not even sometimes just the state. A lot of times you have to have the entire chain all together. There cannot be one weak link in improving our communities where we just ignore who's in power at this spot. We're experiencing that right now with the fact that controlling law enforcement, and I use that term deliberately. It is up to us to have control over our law enforcement. But how do we do that? Because a lot of local governments have abdicated control over their own law enforcement. And we do need federal government, but we have to kind of figure out that balance. So to me, you bringing up all this stuff right here is super valuable because it means that people are finally like, yeah, it looks like fun, but like dawn breaks inside their skull and suddenly they get it. And they get it because you're talking about EPA Bay and telling them what he's doing. And then how you tell them is bringing that story of how American government functions for them to the forefront. Now, when did you pick the EPA for any particular reason besides Michael's?
Besides him being fun. So I've been following Michael Regan for some time. I've been kind of like randomly thirst posting about him because he spends a lot of time with Vice President Kamala Harris, who I also advocate for and support. And they work very closely together, as we were talking about before, on the issue of replacing lead piping. But then I started noticing that the EPA and their work kind of flies under the radar.
Yeah.
And when the bipartisan infrastructure law passed, and then more recently, the Inflation Reduction Act passed, it became clearer and clearer that the EPA is going to play a central role, one, in climate policy, but also just generally in making our communities safer and cleaner with better infrastructures, particularly for Black and Brown communities.
Yeah.
So I wanted to use kind of like the brand that I'd created around, you know, my booze and the bays to bring more attention to his work. So that's why he got elevated into Bay tier. And then more recently, I actually put Secretary Blinken, Tony Blinken, and he became State Department Bay.
The smolder tweets.
The smolder.
And it's true though.
It's true. It's true. His Bay origin story was great though.
Because you did a series of tweets of his overseas work, and it's like getting Americans to pay attention to foreign policy does take a level of mad genius, and you pretty much got people to pay attention.
People were paying attention to his foreign trips. I did a whole thread where he's basically like a food blogger.
Yes.
And then I make up like little storylines, but within the storyline, you're getting nuggets of information about what he is actually doing in that day, which foreign dignitary he's visiting, which countries we're seeing, the issues that they're touching on. So it's just a lens into different parts of the government and just trying to understand how the government works. And that these people are always working. I don't even know if they like get weekends off.
Last time I worked for local government, I had weekends off, but I was 24/7 on call. If an emergency happens, it's my job. I get up and I go. Right? But no, the thing is that especially right now, where foreign policy is affecting Americans in a way that we really haven't experienced since the last time we had a world war.
That's right.
Everything we're dealing with gas prices, food prices, that's directly tied to conflict overseas right now. And it's seeing, and I figure helping people know who our SOS is and see, because we're going to have to start responding right now to what Iran selling kamikaze drones to Russia to attack Ukrainian infrastructure. We have the United Arab Emirates taking our money and basically going, well, let's mess with gas production to kind of put screws to this administration. You know, I don't think they've come out fully in support of Russia, but that's definitely what's happening right now with gas prices, because gas prices were going
They're
down
going down, yeah.
and now heading right back up again. And it just kind of shows what a huge mistake, honestly, was made decades past when we decided we were going to be dependent on outsourced oil production and gas production and a lot of things, and how vulnerable we are to being manipulated that way. And it's interesting to see how the timing is very, very coincidentally going with the midterms.
I don't want to say election interference, but
Well, I mean, everybody knows about Russia's interference in the 2016 and 2020 elections. A lot of people don't remember that it was also China, it was also United Arab Emirates
UAE.
and Israel. Oddly enough, they too have had fingers in the pies in futzing with our elections for the past 4 cycles even. So yeah, surprisingly unsurprised, but helping people know that is a big deal. So getting people to pay attention to Secretary of State Blinken, good idea. Now, do you see yourself adding more or doing more as we speed up towards the big day in November 8th?
I mean, at this point, I feel like I'm doing quite a lot. I go to bed maybe 3 a.m. every night at this point. I'm working like full days on this advocacy. I'm spending a lot more time as well on local races in Georgia.
Yeah. You've been supporting the win, if I remember.
The win. I love the. So what I'm doing in Georgia, I'm not just supporting Senator Maibu and Senator Bay. I'm also really, really supporting Stacey Abrams and the entire statewide ticket. So that includes Secretary of State, Attorney General, Lieutenant Governor, Labor Commissioner, Agriculture Commissioner. The entire, so people understand these are all positions that we need to be voting for. And on top of that, also state house seats, state senator seats. So there's some folks there that I'm also supporting.
You know, that's true. And that's something I appreciated about your work on Georgia. I mean, it's so much work. Thank you for doing it. I don't know if people have ever expressed that, because I know I see what you're doing. And yeah, it is a lot of work. And you've put together the full holistic ticket in a way that if you are a person in Georgia and they are following you, or if you're not in Georgia, but your friends in Georgia and you're like, oh, hey, let me send them this link because I happen to know who is running for what. And here's what you need to know. The thing is that government works as a holistic enterprise right now. Exactly. We don't have the luxury, and you've seen me say this before, we don't have the luxury to play mix and match like it's Garanimals. There is
ticket splitting drives me insane. It drives me crazy, and I don't understand it. So let's say you vote for Stacey Abrams, and then you give her a Republican AG or a Republican lieutenant. Like, what are you even thinking? Like, how does that work? Or a Republican Secretary of State? Like, what's going on in your mind?
People explained to me when they told me that they do things like that they were like, oh, well, you got to balance it out. And I'm like, the problem you have is that this is not, most Democrats running for office are very balanced and moderate to left.
Yeah.
Every single Republican running for office is not even moderate, not even right. They're literally all the way over there on the far, far right, sucking down napalm and eating glass. We don't know what the hell they're doing, but it's destructive. to them, to us, you cannot, this is not balanced. There's no balance there. You cannot balance with them. Put two Democrats together, you'll get 7 different opinions and balance.
Exactly. It's a big tent party.
It is a big tent party, and you're
And
not getting
the thing is,
balance.
they will work. They will work for the people, not for
And they will work
themselves, not for
with each
special
other.
interests, and with each other as a team to get things done. The Democrats actually want to deliver something.
That's true. And it's like, I think people need to stop thinking that you mix and match, you know, like a checkerboard pattern, and start to understand that one group is dedicated to working with each other to develop something, do something, and another group is not is devoted to their party. That's who they are. The Republicans are about their party, and you cannot add them to the mix without accepting that then they're not going to work with or for anybody. And honestly, you're probably going to have to watch them the whole and entire time, because they're going to do something criminal.
Yeah.
That's all.
Criminals, like sabotage, whatever.
Everything.
Everything's on the table.
At this point, it's just, you know, hey, just letting you know, it's a snake and it's going to bite somebody. It may be jeweled and pretty, but you can't wear it like a bracelet because it's going to bite you. Yeah. But so it's a huge part of advocacy to present these solutions. And what have you personally gotten out of it? Like, you've gotten a lot, you've given a lot, but are you getting? And what can we do to help you?
Well, to be honest, I get a lot of joy from doing it. I really do. One, because the men are just really, 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 really ridiculously good looking. But it's also, it feels good to show people that government is working, right? Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the cabinet that they've assembled and the Democrats that you've elected into office want to work for you. But these midterms are vital because they need more, right? They need more like-minded individuals around them to help them achieve their goals. There's so much negativity on Twitter, so much doom and gloom, so much woe is me, what's the point, you know, do something Twitter, all of that. I just really wanted and needed to counter that for my own like mental well-being being on Twitter.
Yeah, it can be very depressing. And how can you work and when it seems so hopeless, when everybody's telling you it's hopeless and they're on your side?
Everyone's telling you that it's hopeless because also they don't know what's happening in government. They don't pay attention to what's happening in government. They don't follow any government accounts.
True.
It's but always still weird. Say the government is useless and not doing anything. So what I always advocate for is, okay, maybe stop following the influencers who are telling you nothing is happening and start following government accounts to see what's happening. And that's kind of why EPA Bay exists or why State Department Bay exists. So that people start paying attention to what's actually happening in government, all the good work that's happening, how the bipartisan infrastructure law then gets implemented by the executive branch and all the good projects that are happening in different communities. So you actually see the fruits of the labor. So you understand that your vote matters, that elections matter. So when the next election rolls by, you're like, hell yeah, I want to vote for Democrats. They're badasses. Look at all the great work that they've done, because there are even some elected Democrats who poo-poo on some of the laws and legislations that have been passed, like the bipartisan infrastructure law, like the Inflation Reduction Act. But if you look at what's actually happening on the ground and being implemented as a result of those laws, you'd never say those things.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, we have to be the best advocates we can be for the policies we want to pass, and also to help people see that what good they're doing so they know what's
Exactly.
happening.
I always say
And
be the messenger. People are like, oh, Democrats are bad at messaging. And like, no, you're a bad messenger.
yeah, be a good messenger.
What
And
are you putting online? What are you retweeting, right?
oh
What are
Lord
you
knows,
tweeting about?
you know what I have had to say to people whose job it is, what they're doing. Uh, honestly, nobody could do what you're doing. You've done it brilliantly, so I'm gonna give you it.
Oh,
Thank
thank you.
you, because you make me smile so often on this, and I'm so impressed. I had to have you on. I was hoping to have Mr. Williams on to talk about confluence, but it's difficult to fit his schedule. But this has been a lot of fun, and I'm going to also say people always say Twitter's a hellscape. Maybe because you're following people you hate.
Exactly. And
Follow
people who are
people you
addicted to hate, I'm convinced some of them are literally addicted to outrage.
I think they are. I'm addicted to
Yeah.
fun and joy and cats and food and and positivity. So you know what? That's why I followed you, and that's what I want to put out in the world. I think it's a valuable message. So we're gonna have to wrap it up here.
Okay.
I deliberately kept this on a time meeting so we don't talk forever. So we fit within the parameters of what drives us. But I gotta thank you so much, Qondi, for
You're
stopping
so
by.
welcome.
Thank you for what you're doing. And you know what?
Just one more thing,
You're
just to
good.
tie into your show, What Drives Us. Definitely look out for EPA-based videos because he loves driving electric vehicles. And he is so joyful when he does it. He has one where he's driving um, a green garbage truck. Man, and he's having the time of his life. So,
All right,
he
we're
has a
gonna have
few
to focus. We're gonna
amazing
have to put
videos.
one of those on the
Please
show
do.
then.
They're great.
All right. We will. Thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome.
All right. I'm going to say sayonara and you have a great day. See you on the
You
Twitters.
too. All right.
Bye.